All right, guys. Hopefully, it is streaming clear. Wanted to do a quick post because everything is fresh. We just got back late last night. Still rocking a little bit in my head because it's a smaller boat. So I know when we were out there live, some of you guys, some friends, some families, some of you guys I don't know. However, some of you guys commented that you wanted to take a cruise or you wanted to know how the Margaritaville was. They've only been around for about a year, a little bit over a year. I did a little bit background research while we were on the cruise, and the owner of the Margaritaville is actually the past CEO of Norwegian. So they do know what they're doing, getting their cast and crew and everything like that. However, let's talk about the pros and cons. And again, this can go for anybody who is trying to cruise or has never cruised before or is thinking about cruising. Um, there are some we did research ourselves too before going reading Facebook posts and going on to the Margaritaville page and reading other people's comment. But again, should you find this video, I hope you find it helpful because the I would say that understanding if you go to a lot of cruises, it's good to kind of know the stuff up front so that you know what to expect. Or if you've never taken it, it'll be good to know. So there's a few things. Let's talk about the pros first. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff. So price. Okay, I would say price is probably one of the main reasons why we booked this cruise. Um, Price to me, I felt like they were the most competitive. Okay. For four people, so there's two adults and two kids, four of us, the cost was under 2,000. Okay. So I would say price, let me just put it in the chat here. Price was definitely the main reason. Okay. I would say price is definitely the main reason why I felt like the cruise made sense. We've never taken this cruise line before. Usually, we're very particular. You know, we've taken Norwegian, we've taken the Caribbean, Caribbean. We've kind of stuck with those, but we actually like Norwegian a lot more. We did not want to take Carnival because we heard so many bad things about it. Did not want to take a Disney cruise because we also heard so many things about just the stuff that goes on. It doesn't mean that it's a bad cruise, but it depends on what you're trying to get out of it. Um, I would say let's just talk solely on this one. So for the Margaritaville, price definitely was number one. Some of the destination I felt like was stuff that we haven't seen. So we've been to Mexico before, but we stopped at two places in Mexico. We stopped at Honduras and we stopped at Belize. And then, of course, you have like one day on the ship while you're going, one day on the ship while you're coming back. And so that's where your 7 day is. And then, of course, you exit on the Sunday. So left the beginning of the week, came back the end of the Sunday, landed like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, and then we got off the ship. So I would say that swimming wise, okay, so the pros swimming wise, if you get onto the island, they do dock at some of the docks are like far out. Like for example, when we took the Italy cruise, it was for 2 weeks and they stopped really far out, and you have to take a taxi even to get back into the land, okay, to get back to where you could see anything. For this cruise, I think is very easy. So you get right onto the docks, and most of the locations you're stopping right at the dock, except for I think the Belize one. We had to get on the shuttle boat or whatever they want to call it, and they shuttle you over. If you're nauseous on any kind of boat ride, you're going to feel a little bit more bump when you have to go through that. So you may not want to get off the boat. Okay. However, the case, I would say that most of the stops you're right on the main island. You get off the dock, you walk right out, you're into a shopping area, so lots of shopping. And if you're taking a taxi, you could get to some beaches within 20-30 minutes. Some of them have like man-made beaches, so you do have access direct. Okay, so you're not having to take a taxi or some type of shuttle unless you need to. Okay, except for that one stop in Belize. So it's not too bad. And this is the Margaritaville Islander out of Tampa. Okay. So overall, the pros again, price, you do stop at all the docks so you can get out to go shop or just to see the country that you're stopping at. So that's not a bad thing. Um, I would say the um, food taste, I would say the food taste is pretty good. Okay. Hamburger, number one thing on the boat. Okay. The pizza probably comes in like number two because the pizza is the only thing open all day. Well, I can't say all day, but I would say from lunch until 2 a.m. in the morning. The only thing open is the pizza place, so that you can still have food to eat. Not good for your gut, but you still have food to eat. Okay. So you don't go hungry. Um, the food overall was good tasting. However, we'll talk about the cons after. Okay. So you have the price, the food overall tastes good. You have you're stopping right at the docks. You do, get easy access. So I'll put it in here. So easy access, well, let's just say, so it's easy when you arrive because you're right on dock. And then let's just say the food tastes good. Okay. However, it depends on what good is to you guys because every single ship we're on is different. Okay. I would say the overall food tastes good. Okay. Like the hamburger is really good. The pizza is good. Some of their fruit is good. And again, some of their fish is good. So again, I would say overall, okay, overall the food tastes good. The service, right? When I say service, I would say the service is like the people you meet, the servers inside the buffet place, the people that take care of your rooms and clean everything. I would say those are excellent. Those like they treat you well, they treat you fair, no conflicts. They take your plates, they keep everything clean. Your rooms are always clean. They always give you an animal every single day. um I would say that that part of it was very good. Okay, the people in general are very good for servicing. Okay, the service people on the ship are very good. um I would say these are probably the main things if you're comparing them from ship to ship, because all the ships kind of tie back into this, your price, what you get to eat, how much selection you have, um how does everything else work, um so I would say that these things are probably the good things. Okay. However, if you've never taken a cruise ship, then this is all new to you. If you've taken it before, these are probably the things we compare the most. And we also compare like the childcare place, for the kids and stuff. However, I would say these are the things that make it good for that price. So for that price alone, if you've never gone on a cruise and you're on a budget and you want a whole family to go together, I would say that these things will give you the basics experience. You'll be on a ship, you'll have swimming on top, you'll have photos below. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Okay. Photo package. Photo package is probably one of the lowest ones I've seen across the three ships that we've taken. Okay. Most of the ships you're paying per photo, or you're paying for per package, and you might get 10 photos with like maybe 5 printouts or 10 printout, but it's like $300. Okay. And you're paying like $10 to $15 per photo. And obviously when you take a lot of photos, which is one of the coolest things, but you may not know if you've never taken a ship. Okay. But I would say the photo package for this ship, it was 159 when you're entering from your check-in onto the boat. Before you get on the boat, it was 159. You want to buy that package if you're taking the Margaritaville. Okay. Um, you get 5 printed photos, 8 by 10s, which the quality is overall really good. And they give you all the digitals that you take, whether that's off the ship or in the ship. As long as you go take the photos, they give you all the photos. We had like 190 something photos. If you're talking about the cost, the other ships can't beat the photo package. Okay. That's a way better photo package. Quality wise and all that stuff, I don't know. I didn't open up the digital yet, but the prints that we got turned out pretty good. Okay. So I would say the photo package was good compared to the other ones. Okay. So now let's talk about the cons, and then we'll talk about the overall. So I would say the cons is that even though the food is good, it's very limited. Okay. Uh, Let me just put down here. Limited food choices, okay? Um, you only have one line or two lines. They don't have a wide selection. There's not like groups. Like for example, on the Norwegian, you have Indian food, Asian food, you have Greek food, you have I don't know. They might have specialists. Certain days they might have five type of soups. They have a whole salad bar, and then they have like four or more buffet lines. Some of them are different. Some of them are the same. They have multiple fruits. So again, it's hard to compare them because we've been on different ships. But if you're comparing it even to the smaller ship that's similar to this that we've taken before, our first ship out of Florida, I believe it's out of Miami. That first Norwegian one was the size of this one, which is about 2,000 people, 2,000 passengers. It was still like, I think the food choices were better. Okay. The food and drink, okay, I would say are the two things that people try to compare the most. The food selection was good, but the food selection was very limited. Okay, you had um, a Hispanic line outside that had Mexican food that, like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really felt like it tasted good, so I didn't go out there and wait. But they had tacos, they had burritos. It just didn't look like it was appetizing, especially when you're on a hot cruise. Okay, and then you had one line that was just hamburger, and it was fresh patty hamburgers that were handmade. You can see the meat outside. They hand make it, they press it, and they cook it. So the hamburger, I would say, is probably excellent. Is probably better than any of the boats that I've been on. Is the hamburger meat? Okay. Um, However, the case, I would say they only have those two, and then the regular lines for lunch or dinner, very limited. Sometimes you have a little bit of a wait. However, the ship is not, you don't have a ton of passengers. Some of these ships we've been on has 4,000 passengers. So I would say the food selection is limited. The drink selection is good. Okay. Along with the food, the drink selection, you get, I think, lemonade during lunchtime, lunch and dinner, you get lemonade. You get tea. I think it's unsweetened tea and water. When we went on the Royal, that was one of the worst things. Okay, it was like watered down lemonade that did not taste good, and water that did not taste good. So I felt like that was a horrible food experience from the Royal itself. However, for the Margaritaville, the food is good. However, it's limited in selection and portion, so they have like small portions and they refill it. They have good cake selection, but then at the same time, we didn't eat a ton of cakes. But the food selection in general, even fruit selection, they had 4 or 5 different fruits, but the food selection in general was limited, but the food overall was good. Um, the other thing that I did not like is some of the people on this ship, because it's cheaper, they were a little bit more rude. Okay, like kids running back and forth, fighting, yelling. We had a neighbor that was cussing and closing his door. And again, this can happen anywhere you go. But in all the ships that we've been on, we haven't seen it to this extent. And of course, that's the reason we did not take Carnival, because we see a lot of this. Okay. So for sure, there was a lot more people just arguing and, whatever the case is, right? So if you're trying to have a different type of experience. Maybe you want a different cruise. However, the case, if you've never been, it's not bad for the budget. But anytime you get to a budget cruise, you're going to have this. Okay. That's the one thing that we realized, because this was bought strictly because it was a good price. And yes, it's a different experience. The karaoke is horrible. Okay. Again, I just wanted to bring some highlights out so that you guys kind of know. Again, whether you like it or not, that's your choice. However, I just felt like it was bad experience. Even listening to people, it was not great. The atrium was really tiny. The space that you meet up and hang out and stuff like that, it was very tiny. Oh, excuse me. And the host, I did not think the host was great. The Royal, I didn't really like the host either, and their crew. The Norwegian, we went back because we really liked their host and the crew. They feel like family. Um, I think from my experience, the Norwegian pulls a lot from the Asian countries, especially the Filipinos. they have a it's more like family knit. So all the people know what they're doing, all the captain and crew and whoever is leading, they know what they're doing. I felt like it's very unified. When we went on to the Royal, it didn't feel like that. The Royal was like a mix of different people and different experiences, and it didn't feel like unified family. Everybody did their own thing. We did not like that. And then for the Margaritaville, they pull a lot from the Asian countries as well. A lot of Filipinos I saw, and they have maybe other backgrounds, but they were very unified in what they did. However, the main person who, when you go onto the ship, it's always the lead person who is kind of leading everybody, the host. I didn't think she was good. I didn't think that she had control of all the people, and everybody was like having fun and doing all this stuff together. I didn't feel that way. Their shows also, I didn't think the shows are great. They had one good comedian that wasn't for kids, cursed a lot. He gave some partial racist jokes. However, he was funny. That was good. The other shows were putting us to sleep. The other shows were not good. They didn't have a lot of options as well for shows. And they only had, I think, like 2 nights of bingo or something like that for the adults that like to play that. Their casino on this is horrible. Okay, just in general for anybody who's traveling, most of those on the actual ships itself, they don't hit, they don't win. They're just not pleasant, even though they're present. But I think this is the worst one that we've seen. And I think it was owned by a different group of people because we saw different people managing it. Um, but I just felt like it was the worst that we've seen. Okay. So just heads up, okay. Should you want to go and enjoy and relax and play, I would say that the Margaritaville for that's probably one of the worst that I've seen. I don't think anybody had fun. Um, and then of course I would say that the other thing is that if you are worried about seasickness and like rocking of the boat, I still feel a little bit rock. And most of the week that we're there, the ship did not feel like that. Um, it's when they go fast or when they have storms, the smaller ships, you're going to feel a lot of that. So if you're worried about seasick and all that stuff, get on the boats that are 3,000, okay, 3,000 passengers or more to the 4,000. It's a lot more people. It takes longer to get in, but those ships are going to have more food selection. They're going to be more stable, and you're not going to feel any rocking. I didn't feel or remember any rocking when we got on those big ships, but the first one that we went on, Norwegian, was a smaller ship. Felt the same way. That was even worse. Okay, that first small Norwegian was worse than the one that we went on this week. When you're sleeping, you tilt left to right. When you're walking down the hallway, you're walking to the right, and then you're walking back to the left. Okay, that was the worst experience, I would say. If you are nauseous, do not take those small cruise ships. Okay, under 2,000 passengers, you're gonna get sick and you're gonna throw up. If you are a nauseous person and you get seasick, don't take those small boats. Okay, 3 to 4,000 passenger. Get on those big cruise ship. Is more stable. None of the weather bothers the boat, and they go at a certain pace. You just don't feel any moving or shifting. This one, the last 2 days, they kind of went fast, and the wind was really high, and it was raining. And of course, I could still feel that movement today. Okay, so just give you guys a heads up. This ship in general, you feel a little bit of movement. It's not horrible, but you feel a little bit. Okay, so I would say don't take it if you're nauseous. I would probably take a bigger boat. But if you want a budget, price, it's probably a good ship for the price, the taste of the food, the photo pricing, the service, people that are there to service you. I would say that those are good. Okay, so if you want that experience, it's a good ship. But if you want to be at peace and you want to have like 1 or 2 floors of just silence, is it's not built that way. Okay, there's a lot of teenagers running around, yelling, playing games. It was 1 o'clock in the morning when we were packing our stuff out. Kids are running back and forth, and you could hear them, throughout. Okay, so I would just say that budget gives a little bit more opportunity, and it's just going to, it's going to have a little bit more noise. Okay, so just keep in mind. However the case, overall, I would say that the ship is worthy of the price. The food tastes good, the service is good. I don't know that you could get a better price. So for budget wise, I would say the Margaritaville is very good for the budget. Okay, I would say it's fair for the budget. But again, if you want the other stuff that makes the trip a little bit more comfortable, nicer, more elegant, maybe more photo sessions. Some of the other boats had like 2 floors of photos and they had like maybe 4 to 6 photographers. This one had like 2 to 3 photographers per night and they were on one floor. It's a really small area. Okay. However, again, it's because of the size of the boat. So if you want more elegance, you want more restaurants to choose from. This one didn't have a lot of restaurants. You had one that you could sit in. That one was okay. But yeah, one sit-in restaurant, then some of them you have to pay, and then they have one steakhouse, and then of course you just have the buffet. So selection-wise, I would say that Norwegian gives you a better selection of food. However, if you want to be comfortable, get on the bigger ships. Okay, at least 3,000 passenger plus. But I would say overall, if you are trying to get a budget and you want to stay low and you want to bring a large group of people, it's not a bad ship. But if you want a better experience and you want better food and more selection and more space to be at peace or to just sit on the dock by yourself, and also the swimming area, I felt like it was way too limited. They only had 2 swimming pools, completely crowded. A few times I looked in the water, if it looked dark, it did not look blue like chlorine. It looked like dark, like green, okay, like almost like green water, okay. So I didn't want to get in there. The water did not look clean. However, it's a smaller boat, so the area is smaller. But if you want a larger swimming area, more on top to play in, the other one we went on had a basketball. Yeah, basketball hoops. It had place you could play soccer. Some of them you could set up a volleyball net. But again, those are the bigger ships. They have like 3 or 4 of these. Sliding tubes. This one had one tiny one, so it's not really built that way. However, it does give you the experience to get out. So anybody who is looking, hopefully you listen to some of those notes and you make a decision whatever fits your budget. The other ones are a lot higher. I think we looked at the same weekend for a Norwegian cruise and they were like 4,000 plus. Okay, that's without plane tickets. So it's almost double the cost to get to a Norwegian or a Royal cruise at the same time. Carnival was at or lower than this, but I don't know that I would suggest Carnival based on what we experienced in Margaritaville. Carnivals, I saw videos of fights and all this other stuff, breaking out. I'm not sure. I don't know that you want to go to a cruise to have all that chaos. Okay. However, I would say Margaritaville in general is a good experience for the price, but it could be better. And so I think that might be our last time going on Margaritaville. If we cruise again, we're probably going to cruise on the big ships. However, it was a good experience. You stop at a few places, you get some nice photos. And the other thing on some of the beaches that I did not like is that you do have to drive 20 to 30 minutes. It does cost around $20 to $30 per head, not per car, in order to get there. Sometimes they wait for you, sometimes they don't. You have to negotiate that. But I would say that if you're going, just be aware that when you're going to those beaches, especially when we're in Mexico, it takes about 20, 30 minutes and you're going uphill. Okay. I got dizzy going uphill these little roads and coming back down. You do get to a very nice beach, but it's not a convenient road. So that's just how it is in some of these other countries. Just be aware that, yeah, if you're nauseous, when you get on those roads, you're probably going to get sick. Okay. Because I get nauseous if it's super winding and stuff like that. However, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You have to just be prepared for that. But overall, again, if the beach was closer, I would probably give them a higher rating, but the beaches are not closer. You do get to their dock in the shopping center, but the beaches are farther out. You have to drive farther. So you always have to hire a taxi person. But I would still say like the Italy trip was way more expensive when you're talking about taxi rides. However the case, again, just be aware that all the beaches are not by the shores of all the docks. They have a shopping center, they have some man-made beaches, but if you really want to see the ocean water, some of the places you have to take a taxi 20 to 30 minutes out to get to the beach. You have a limited time. You need to get back in time so you don't miss the ship. All right. So just wanted to give a few things out there since it's fresh and we just came off the boat, and I still feel like I'm rocking a little bit because the last night it was kind of wakey a lot in the water and the boat was kind of moving a little bit. However, the case, again, hopefully you guys take something away. Hopefully it helps you guys if you're making a decisions to go cruise. I would suggest a big boat. In my personal opinion, a big boat, I would say Norwegian has always been the better experience. If you're trying to get a good experience, plenty of food, great drinks, and overall experience, I would say the Norwegian is probably still my best out of the three. All right. Thank you guys for your time. Hopefully, you take something away. If you have any other questions, comment below. I might have missed some stuff because I'm talking about it live. I didn't write anything down, but I wanted to talk about it fresh since we just got back, so I can tell you guys what we saw and what we didn't see, and how the experience was, so that it's not fabricated. It's exactly what we experienced. So hopefully, you guys take something away. But if you have questions about certain things that we experienced or didn't experience, comment below. I will respond to you and give you guys feedback on what we experienced so that you don't waste your time or you know what to expect. All right. Thank you guys. Bye bye.